Hagigah was offered in the temple at 9 o'clock in the morning the next day on the 15th of Nisan. So the Hagigah, the hard-boiled egg, reminds us of that sacrifice. Now, this sacrifice also can remind us of Jesus the Messiah. How does it do that? Well, the Hagigah is the Passover festival peace offering, correct? And in Romans 5:1 it says, having been justified by faith, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ. You see, Jesus is our Hagigah. He is our peace offering. So it can remind us of him. Now, the Hagigah, the hard-boiled egg, also functions as a symbol of mourning. When it functions as a symbol of mourning, it's dipped in salt water. At that time, the salt water stands for salty tears, because we are mourning, we're crying salty tears, recalling the destruction of the temple in AD 70. So it also functions as a symbol of mourning. Now, another symbol on the Passover Seder plate is this green vegetable known as karpas. Often parsley is used. Now, the karpas is green, and green is a symbol of springtime and of youthfulness. The karpas is also dipped in salt water. At this time, the salt water stands for the salt water of the Red Sea. And so the full meaning is this: in the springtime of our nationhood, God saved us and redeemed us by bringing us through the salt water of the Red Sea. Now, a symbol of slavery on the Passover Seder plate is this brown fruit mixture known as charosis. Charosis is made out of apples, nuts, wine, cinnamon. It's made at least 24 hours prior to the Seder, so it turns dark brown in color. Being brown in color, it looks just like the bricks and brick mortar we had to work with as slaves to Pharaoh. So it's a reminder of slavery. However, charosis tastes delicious, and so the full symbol is this: God's kindness made slavery bearable. God's kindness made slavery bearable. Another symbol of slavery on the Passover Seder plate is the maror, the bitter herb. Often horseradish is used. You take a bite out of this and it brings tears to your eyes, right? And those tears are important. They recall the bitter tears of the Egyptian slavery. Now, the final item on the Passover plate is called chatzeret. Now, this item varies with tradition. It varies with family. Sometimes ground horseradish root or ground onion will be on your Passover Seder plate. If those items are on your Seder plate, they recall the fact that the root of life can sometimes be bitter. Horseradish root or onion, which is a root, the root of life can sometimes be bitter. You know, we get bumped and bruised as we go through life, sometimes very severely. So that's the symbol there. But more often than not, the final item on the Passover Seder plate is the salt water. Again, standing for salty tears or the salt water of the Red Sea, depending how the symbol is being used. Now, Rabbinic Judaism is a liturgical religion, and that means everything has a set order. That's what the word Seder means. We are going to go through the set order of the Passover. And for that reason, every person at the Seder has their Haggadah. The Haggadah is the book that contains all the services of the Passover. There's at least 1 million of these in existence. This was given to me by an Israeli friend. You can see they're usually quite colorful and quite nice. But each person has their copy of the Haggadah, and so they go through each of the ceremonies of the Passover in the set order. And this is your Haggadah for the evening. Okay, your little pamphlet here is your Haggadah. We are now at point 3 on page 2, the setting. So I'd like you to use your imagination this evening. I'd like you to make believe that you're going with me on my trip to Israel in November, right? Now, there's a lady here I'm trying to talk into doing that, but I haven't been able to do that yet. Anyway, we're in Israel. Night has fallen over Jerusalem. We're in Jerusalem. Night has fallen over the city, because Passover is always celebrated at night. And we've just entered the upper room. The upper room had been prepared by Peter and John earlier in the day, correct? Okay, so we've just entered the upper room with Jesus and his disciples. Now, when we enter the upper room, Jesus and his disciples encountered the table that John and Peter had prepared earlier in the day. Now, it would not be a high Western table like we're all using here tonight. It would have been a low Eastern table, only about a foot off the ground. Now, cushions would have been placed around that table on 3 sides in the shape of a U, cushions. And the guests at the Seder would recline on those cushions. They would recline with their feet extending away from the table, left hand supporting the head, right hand free to partake of the meal. Now, this reclining is a symbol of being a free man. You see, a slave had to stand. They had to be ready to move the instant the master snapped his fingers. And a free man could afford the luxury of reclining. And we became a free and independent nation through the events of the Passover. So we recline. Now, most of the table would have been covered with a tablecloth. This would be the area where the guests reclined at the Seder and where the meal was eaten. Part of the table would have been uncovered. This would be the area for the miscellaneous items of the Passover, the bowls, the pitchers, the towels, whatever was needed for the meal to begin and be successfully completed. Now, by comparing Jewish tradition and the biblical record, we can deduce where the four most important guests at this particular Seder were reclining. Now, Jewish tradition follows this custom. In groups of 3 or more, the master, the Rebbe, the father, whoever's the master of the group, sits at the head of the table between the 2 most honored guests. So I'm going to put Jesus, Yeshua, here at the head of the table. Now, you notice I'm standing at the side of the table. Now, in 21st century American thinking, we arbitrarily assign one narrow end of the table as the head, right? So the other narrow end of the table becomes the foot. Not first century Jewish thinking. In first century Jewish thinking, the head of the table is here at the side. The most honored guest to the rabbi's left. Second most honored guest to the rabbi's right. Then, in descending order of importance, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you come to the least important seat, the foot of the table over here. Head of the table here, foot of the table there. Okay? To Yeshua's left, in the seat of greatest honor, reclines Judas Iscariot. This puts Judas in a position to receive the Hillel sandwich, the sop from Yeshua, as we'll see in just a few minutes. To the Messiah's right, in the second most honored position, reclines the Apostle John. This puts John in a position to lean against the Messiah's breast and talk with him secretly without including the rest of the disciples. Directly across from John, at the foot of the table, reclines who? Come on. Who? Peter. All right, you guys are with it. Directly across from John, the least important seat, reclines the Apostle Peter. This puts him in a position to talk secretly to John, to gesture to John, and to talk secretly with him without including the rest of the disciples. All right, one final aspect, and we'll start our Passover Seder this evening. The final aspect is that the Messiah apparently wanted privacy at this Passover Seder. And so there was no slave available to do the menial social task of washing the disciples' feet when they came in the room. Now, in Middle Eastern thinking, the feet are the most dishonorable part of the body. You know, the feet walk around in the dust and the dirt and the mud and the garbage and the droppings and everything else in the street. The feet are the most dishonorable and dirty part of the body. Nobody, none of the disciples, volunteered to humble themselves and do this job fit for a slave. So as we all begin our Seder, we all begin with dirty feet. Now this may seem like an insignificant detail, but Jesus will soon use it to teach 2 very significant lessons. Okay? All righty, we're ready to begin our Seder. And at each table we should have a mama. Mamas, can you raise your hand? Do we have a mama at each end of the table? We need a papa at the end of the table. We need a mama as well at the table. Can we get a papa at the end of each table? Okay, here comes a papa. All righty. Now, mamas, you should have a box of matches somewhere within reach of you there, okay? All right. The first ceremony of the Seder is the kindling of the candles, and this is a very important job. So, mamas, what I want you to do is rise at this time, and I want you to light your candles, and I want you to sing the Hebrew blessings. No? All right, just rise and light your candles. Okay. All right, mamas, please rise and light your candles. is a very, very important job. The woman's job is a very, very important job because the kindling of the candles brings light to the Passover table. You know, in the first century, we didn't have these slick electric lights, so the only light on the table was from the candles. And the kindling, from the very beginning, the kindling of the candles proclaims the messiahship of Jesus, and it does in this manner. As a woman begins the Seder and gives light to the Passover table, so it was a woman who began the redemptive career of Messiah, our Passover, by giving birth to the light of the world. As it is written in John 8:12, when Jesus spoke again to the people, he said, "I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life." So just as the candles illumine our table and gives us guidance, so Jesus illumines our lives and gives us guidance as well. The traditional blessings for lighting the candles, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel yom tov. Blessed art thou, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us by thy commandments and commanded us to kindle the festival lights. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechiyanu v'kiyamanu v'hiyanu lazman hazeh. Blessed art thou, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who has kept us in life and has preserved us and has enabled us to reach this season. Now, the second ceremony of the Passover Seder is the cup of thanksgiving. This is the first toast of 4 in the Seder. Now, before you on your place setting, you all have a wine glass and you all have a couple of decanters of grape juice. What I want you to do is pass around your decanter and just pour a swallow. Just pour a swallow of grape juice into that cup for everybody, all right? We have to do this 4 times, so we can't drink too much each time. Now, this is usually kind of a dead time during the Passover Seder, and so I usually like to tell a Jewish joke at this time. And I